As judge and jury, please listen to the following testimony before deciding for or against the banks. The United States President James Garfield stated, "Whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all industry, legislation, and commerce. And when you realize that the entire system is very easily controlled, one way or another, by a few powerful men at the top, you will not have to be told how periods of inflation and depression originate." Page 32, see bibliography number 5. Sir Josiah Stamp, president of the Bank of England during the 1920s and the second richest man in England, banking was conceived in iniquity and was born in sin. The bankers own the earth. Take it away from them, but leave them the power to create deposits, money, and with the flick of a pen, they will create enough deposits to buy it back again. However, take it away from them, and all great fortunes like mine will disappear. And they ought to disappear, for this would be a happier and better world to live in. But if you wish to remain the slaves of the bankers and pay the cost of your own slavery, let them continue to create deposits. Page 8, see bibliography number 18, February 3rd, 1986. Mr. Rothschild, the famous London banker, is reputed to have said, "It gives the national bank almost complete control of national finance. The few who understand the system will either be so interested in its profits or so dependent on its favor that there will be no options from that class, while opposition from that class, while, on the other hand, the great body of people, mentally incapable of comprehending the tremendous advantages that capital derives from the system, will bear its burdens without complaint and perhaps without even suspecting that the system is inimical to their interest." Lightning over the Treasury building, John Eldham, page 41. He admitted to a concealment and collusion. The England Bank operates just like the Federal Reserve Bank and our local banks. Henry Ford Sr., automaker: "It is well enough that the people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." Page 11, see bibliography number 10. U.S. President Andrew Jackson: "If the American people only understood the rank injustice of our money and banking system, there would be a revolution before morning." Bulletin, November 1991, page 4. Founding Father John Adams wrote to Thomas Jefferson stating, "All the perplexities, confusion, and distress on America arises not from defects in the Constitution or Confederation, not from want of honor or virtue, as much as from downright ignorance of the nature of coin, credit, and circulation." Page 99, see bibliography number 12. President Abraham Lincoln: "We the people are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow men who pervert the Constitution." Page 2, see bibliography number 10. In 1913, the Congress gave the private banks the right to print money. Federal Reserve Bank Chairman Mr. Eccles was asked by Congressman Patman, "Mr. Eccles, how did you get the money to buy these $2 billion of government bonds?" Mr. Eccles said, "We created." Mr. Patman said, "Out of what?" Mr. Eccles responded, "Out of the right to issue credit money." Page 47, see bibliography number 6. Congressman Charles Lindbergh wrote, "In no case has government so singly neglected its function as in its failure to issue money and control the charges made for its use." Page 152, see bibliography number 2. Representative Wright Patman, former chairman of a House Banking Committee: "The Federal Reserve Bank creates money out of thin air to buy government bonds. The Federal Reserve Bank is a total money-making machine." Page 7, see bibliography number 8. Patterson was behind the Bank of England, which is like the American banks. The initial stock offering sales pitch instituting the bank read, Patterson hath benefit of interest on all money which it, the bank, creates out of nothing. I bid, page 51. President Andrew Jackson, if Congress has a right under the Constitution to issue paper money, it was given them to be used by themselves, not to be delegated to individuals or corporations. Page 35, see bibliography number 22. Governor Morris wrote a letter to our founding fathers, James Madison, describing banking motivation. The rich will strive to establish their dominion and enslave the rest. They always did. They always will. Page 79, see bibliography number 8. The third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, a private central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army. I bid, page 81 through 82. President Lincoln, the government should create, issue, and circulate all the currency and credit needed to satisfy the spending power of the government and the buying power of the consumer. The privilege of creating and issuing money is not only the supreme prerogative of government, but it is the government's greatest creative opportunity. By the adoption of these principles, the long-felt want for a uniform medium will be satisfied. The taxpayer will be saved immense sums of interest. The financing of all public enterprises and the conduct of the Treasury will become matters of practical administration. Money will cease to be master and become the servant of humanity. I bid, page 103 through 104. Congressman Louis McFadden, former chairman of the House Committee on Banking and Currency from 1920 to 1931, remarked about the Federal Reserve Bank, a superstate controlled by international bankers and international industrialists acting together to enslave the world for their own pleasure. I bid, page 158. Congressman Lindbergh's remark concerning the Federal Reserve Bank. This act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the president signs this bill, the invisible government by the monetary power will be legalized. The people may not know it immediately, but the day of reckoning is only a few years removed. The worst legislative crime of the ages is perpetrated by this banking bill. I bid, page 151. A new monetary system, quotes Congressman Charles Lindbergh. Take, for example, the Federal Reserve Act. That law gives the big bankers authority to rob the people, office holders. Mr. Lindbergh said, understand that by joining with the interest to exploit the people, their re-election is more certain than if they serve the people who elect them. By joining the exploiters, their campaign expenses are paid. The support of the mechanics, machines, and capital press is assured, and if by chance they should lose, they are appointed to some office that suits them equally well or better. On the other hand, when they do support the people, as occasionally a few do, usually the voters, at the request of the profiteers, defeat such at a succeeding election, and they scarcely ever land an appointive office. Page 141. Why a bankrupt America? Quotes Daniel Webster. A disordered currency is one of the greatest political evils. It undermines the virtues necessary for the support of the social system and encourages propensities destructive to its happiness. It wars against industry, frugality, and economy, and it fosters evil spirit of extravagance and speculation. Of all the contrivances for cheating the laboring class of mankind, none has been more effectual than that which deludes them with paper money. Page 8. Why a bankrupt America, quotes Ron Paul, former member of the Congress. Strictly speaking, it probably is not necessary for the federal government to tax anyone directly. It could simply print the money it needs. However, That would be too bold a stroke, for it would then be obvious to all what kind of counterfeiting operation the government is running. The present system, combining taxation and inflation, is akin to watering the milk. Too much water and the people catch on. Page 8. Why a Bankrupt America? Congressman Wright Patman. Congressional Record, May 5th, 1975. It is, in its 60-year history, the Federal Reserve System has never been subject to a complete independent audit, and it is the only important agency that refuses to consent to an audit by the Congress agency. The General Accounting Office, GAO, audits of the Federal Reserve will moreover fill the glaring gap that now exists in our information about the Fed's activities and programs. As things now stand, the only information that we get on programs of the Fed is what the Fed itself wants us to have. Page 11. Pass law of the United States Code at Title 12, Section 152, lawful money of the United States shall be construed to mean gold and silver coin. I bid, page 12. United States Constitution, Article 1, 8, the Congress shall have the power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. I bid, page 12. United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, no state shall coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender of payment of debts. I bid, page 12. A new monetary system, page 137, explains, following Chairman Patman's order to investigate the banks, he was severally reprimanded by the committee members for such a requirement. Angrily, they demanded that he produce the specific evidence which they themselves had blocked his staff from obtaining. After charging the bank of raising an annual kitty of millions to pay lobbyists and bribe congressmen, Mr. Patman went on to describe how the banking lobby had been snooping into the most intimate details of the private lives of the congressmen, including family matters, drinking habits, and bank affiliations. The Social Security and Pensions Conspiracy by Howard Metz. The IRS and banking are part of the second and fifth planks of the Communist Manifesto. Metz explains how the Rockefellers have worked for 5 decades to control the American government and dominate the U.S. economy. According to Metz, the Rockefellers plan to consolidate and control the world economy through money creation and loans, making government dependent on the bankers. Howard Metz explained that the Federal Reserve Bank is managed by foreigners, and their names seldom are known and rarely appear. They profit through government control and creating money. It is well known Rockefeller controls the New York Federal Reserve Bank. The income tax and Federal Reserve Bank both started in 1913. A new tax was needed to pay the interest on the new government debt the banks would receive for free through money creation. Page 108, see bibliography number 2. The Dan Smoot's opinion of the CFR, expressed in their July 20th, 1964 report, described that the mutually similar aims of the organization and in international communism both wanted to create a one-world socialist system that would include the United States. That, of course, would destroy the U.S. as a free and independent nation. The Council on Foreign Relations calls its grand design a New World Order, code words for a one-world government. Tom Shaw, they cannot go to a one-world government, the United Nations, without their current banking system financing it and obtaining the assets of the nation for free. In 1935, Franklin A. Vanderlip said, "We have already tried borrowing and spending our way to recovery. We have had numberless hopeful and well-meant experiments aimed to bring us out of the depression. Thus far, we have not emerged, nor will we until the fatal defects of our money system are corrected. To those defects, more than anything else, I attribute the depression." Lightning over the Treasury Building, R. Elson, page 74. In 1935, Mariner Eccles, chairman of the Federal Reserve System, said, "The banks can create and destroy money. Bank credit money, it is the money we do most of our business with, not the not the currency which we usually think as money." I bid 74. Irving Fisher, professor emeritus of economics at Yale, said, "When a bank lends or invests, it extends credit, i.e., creates checkbook money. When it gets loans paid or sells investments, it contracts credit, i.e., destroys checkbook money. In normal times, such creation and destruction of money roughly balances, but when they do not balance, the nation's money is inflated and deflated and causes a boom or a depression." I bid 75. Summer H. Slitcher, professor of business and economics at Harvard, said, "When banks grant credit by creating or adding to bank deposits subject to check, new dollars are created. It is true that the new dollars are not stamped out of gold. They are credit dollars and are created by the stroke of a pen rather than by dies and stamping machines. But their purchasing power is not less than the dollar coined at the government mint. In other words, the principal way in which the dollars are created is by borrowing. This means that the number of dollars in existence at any particular time depends upon the ability and willingness of the banks to lend. The volume of purchasing power fluctuates with the state of men's minds. The growth of pessimism may suddenly throw millions of men out of work, or the growth of confidence may create thousands of jobs overnight." I bid 75 through 76. Mikhail Gravovich stated to the Politburo in November of 1978, "Gentlemen, commanders, comrades, do not be concerned about all you hear about glasnost and perestroika and democracy in the coming years. These are primarily for outward consumptions. There will be no significant internal changes within the Soviet Union. Other than for cosmetic purposes, our purpose is to disarm Americans and let them fall asleep." Page 24, see bibliography number 10. Representative Wright Patman, DTX, Democrat from Texas, former chairman of the House Banking and Currency Committee, warned 35 years ago the Federal Reserve Bank creates money out of thin air to buy government bonds. The Federal Reserve is a total money-making machine. Page 7, see bibliography number 8. In the same book, an author writing under the pen name Dr. R.E. Search explained that the practice of usury inevitably leads to the development of a powerful ring of moneylenders who stop at nothing to perpetuate the charade, corrupting public officials, further enhancing their power. The officials, in turn, protect the usurers. Wholesale murder isn't beyond them. The end of the process generally is to overthrow free government and establish dictator or despots that they can control through the use of money. Page 28, see bibliography number 8. Bulletin, February 1989, the Rothschild family was a powerful European banking family with the power to create money. Let me issue and control the nation's money, and I care not who writes the laws, Rothschild is reputed to have said. The Rothschilds conquered the world more thoroughly, more cunningly, and much more lastingly than all the Caesars before or all the Hitlers after them. Writers Frederick Morton in the Rothschilds, A Family Portrait, page 2. The Rothschilds were heavily involved, as Gustavus Meyer points out in his history of the great American fortunes. Under the surface, the Rothschilds long had a powerful influence in dictating American financial laws. Page 3. Bulletin, February 1989, quotes Napoleon. When a government is dependent for money upon bankers, they and not the leaders of the government control the situation. Since the hand that gives is above the hand that takes, money has no motherland. Financiers are without patriotism and without decency. Their sole object is gain. Page 2. As reported by Pastor Lindsey Williams in the book To Seduce a Nation, Kennedy gave a speech at Columbia University 10 days before his assassination in which he said, "The high office of the president has been used to create a plot to destroy the Americans' freedom, and before I leave office, I must inform the citizens of his plight." Page 2, Bulletin, November 1991. Columbia University claims he never spoke there. I personally talked to an individual who heard the president say these words and testified to me that the president made the speech at Columbia University. This individual was so shocked by what the president said that he listened to the news that evening. The news never reported anything, and the speech was covered up and forgotten. The fact is, JFK took steps to eliminate the power of the bankers' control over the American currency and monetary system. On June 4th, 1963, Executive Order 11,110 was signed by President Kennedy to issue $4,292,893,815 in new currency called United States notes. If this currency had continued to be created and issued, the Federal Reserve Bank would most likely have been ended, the budget balanced, and your personal income tax reduced or eliminated. If President Kennedy had lived, the banks would have lost over $10 trillion plus the interest. The trillions of dollars the banks have today would be in the hands of the people. I owned one of the $2 Kennedy dollars issued in 1963. After Kennedy's assassination, these Kennedy bills were quickly withdrawn from circulation, never to be issued again. Bulletin, November 1991, from the autobiography of Ben Franklin, as reported in Money Creators by Gertrude Kogan. The inability of the colonists to get power to issue their own money permanently out of the hands of George III and the international bankers was the prime reason for the Revolutionary War. In Senate document number 23 from the Committee on Banking and Currency, page 23. Just before the Revolutionary War, Benjamin Franklin visited England. He was asked to account for the colonists' great prosperity. His reply, "That is simple. It is only because in the colonies we issue our own money. It is called colonial scrip, and we issue it in the proper proportions to the demands of trade and industry." Confirmed in Lightning over the Treasury Building, John Ellison, page 28 through 31. Soon the Rothschilds Bank saw an opportunity to exploit the nation. The bankers and the English passed a bill taking away colonial scrip, forcing the colonists to use debt money issued from England. Benjamin Franklin explained that this was the cause of the Revolutionary War. Within 1 year from the date, the streets were filled with the unemployed. When colonists were forced to exchange 2 units of scrip for 1 unit of borrowed money from the Rothschilds Bank, England forced a depression on the colonists. Rothschilds explained by controlling the money, he controlled the colonists. 5 years later, the first armed clashes of the Revolutionary War took place in Lexington and Concord. Page 28 through 31, see bibliography number 22, and page 70 through 71, see bibliography number 8. See Senate document number 23, page 98, by Robert L. Owen, former chairman, Committee on Banking and Currency, United States Senate. On Horns of the Beast, quotes President Wilson, who voted in the Federal Reserve Bank. Our system of credit is concentrated in the Federal Reserve System. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all our activities are in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled governments in the civilized world. No longer a government of free opinion, no longer a government by a voter of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of something. They know that there is a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so persuasive that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. Page 152. Quoted in Repeal, the Federal Reserve Bank, President Wilson said, "I have unwittingly ruined my country." Page 31. Bob Dole, trusting the people, clearly shows how much the IRS monster has grown. Their employees have doubled in a decade to more than 100,000 as a result of this new crew of marauders. More than 1.5 million hardworking Americans face liens on their property, sometimes with no warning at all. Every year, this pirating is also rewarded by the agency, which gives commissions to the IRS agents for the property confiscated in the process. That perverted zealousness in itself may explain the tenfold increase in penalties imposed by the IRS since 1980, page 25. Shall we examine the police force that enforces the banking system? USA Today, February 26, 1997, more than 60,000 police, 10% who have a criminal conviction, could have their firearms taken away. Police groups are lobbying lawmakers so the police can be exempt from the new federal gun control laws, keeping their jobs and placing others in jail for having a gun with the same conviction the cop committed and was exempted. Advocates for victims' rights, opposes changing the law or making special exemptions for police. If we have identified a police officer as a violent individual, he shouldn't be in that job, says Rita Smith of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. They certainly would be a very bad representative to intervene in a domestic violence call.